So as I told you in the last lecture, there is a problem with this implementation. The problem is that if we reuse this movies table component somewhere else, let's say on another page, there, when this table raises an event, we have to duplicate all this logic for determining the sort order. That doesn't make sense. Technically, this logic belongs to the movies table component itself. So when it raises the sort event, instead of giving us a path that is a string, it should give us a sort column object so we know what is the path and the current sort order. So back in our movies table, we should promote this component from a function to a class because we want to add a method in that class for determining the sort order. So let's create a class component, cc tab, call it movies table, hit the escape a couple times to make sure you disable multi-cursor editing. We don't need the state, delete. Also remove what we have in the render method. We don't need this line either, export default, because this component is already exported. Now on the top, we need to import the component class. So we import React and then the component class. Okay, we have the skeleton. Now what we have in this function, we need to move it in our render method. So select everything from here all the way to the end. Cut. So here's our functional component. We delete that and move all the code in the render method. Save the changes. Now we need to make a small change here. We need to replace props with this.props because props is not a parameter here. Now before going any further, let's test the application up to this point. So we don't have any errors or warnings here and our sorting works. Beautiful. So the first step of our refactoring was to promote this component from a function to a class. Now the second step. Here we need to add a new method. Let's call it raise sort. That takes a path. And in this method, we'll have the logic for determining the sort order. So back to our movies component. All the code that we have here, except the last line for setting the state, we should cut this code and move it right here. Now let's see what's going on. We're cloning this .state.sort column. We don't have state here. We get everything via props. So we should clone this .props.sort column. Also, in the last line, we need to raise the sort event. So this .props.unsort, and we pass the sort column object. Next, instead of calling the unsort function, we're going to call this new method that we added to our class. So let's change all the occurrences of unsort. Select, 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 and change them all to this .raise sort. Done. Now back in our movies component, our handle sort event handler no longer takes a path. It takes a sort column object. So sort column. And one final step. In our movies table, as you can see, we expect to get the sort column object via props. So back in the movies component, here in the render method where we are using our movies table, we pass the list of movies. We should also pass the sort column, which we pick from the state, sort column. And this makes perfect sense because if in the future we persist the current sort order or the current page, as the user navigates away from the list of movies and then comes back, we want to initialize this page with the last sort order. So it makes perfect sense to pass this column, the sort column, to our movies table to make sure it's showing the right sort order when this page is initialized. Now let's test the application. So back in the browser, we have a warning here. We'll get to that shortly. Let's just make sure our sorting works. So initially our movies are sorted by the title. Let's click here. Now they're sorted in a descending order. Let's sort by genre. Beautiful. One more time. Perfect. So what is this warning? Here on line 17 of movies table component, unsort is assigned a value but never used. So Here in movies table, line 17, you can see unsort is grayed out. We don't need this. Delete, save the changes, and the warning is gone. Beautiful.